Run, Forrest, run! Wrong franchise. Just run. Hello and welcome to another episode of TrekHammer, where we're talking about every episode of Star Trek. And today we're talking about episode 6, I think it is, of season 5 Star Trek Discovery, Whistlespeak. Okay, this one is exactly what I was wanting from a couple of episodes ago, where Dr. Clubber went through the Shintara for getting some information from a Trill. And at the time I said, I hope that we get to see more of his personal struggle with the after effects of that, and going through was essentially allowing someone else to use his body for a bit while he's there but not there at the same time. And we got it. So that's great. Good character development. They went with it in an interesting way, where he's trying to work out what's going on with him. He feels great, and he's wondering, are there any neurological effects? But no, it's just experiences change you. And I love that eventually he actually talks to his husband about that, and Stamets just says, you know, have you considered just enjoying it? It's great. I love that aspect of what's been going on. We're getting some proper character development on the secondary characters. But what did actually show up is something very interesting. We don't see a lot of the original secondary characters. So Wushikun and Detmer aren't around. They were in the last episode, the time travel, jumping around in time one. And it really struck home that they're just not there. Which is interesting, because this crew was staying together, you know, through thick and thin, and then they're gone. And we haven't really had an explanation about why they're not there. So that was weird. Also, it's an interesting episode because, and I think they should have done more with this aspect of it, but they're essentially going to a pre-warp society and trying not to violate the Prime Directive and all of this. And yet have to, because people's lives are at stake. But no one at any point points out that the Genobulans have already essentially violated the Prime Directive. This species was either going to have to evolve to deal with the huge dust storms on their planet or die out. But the Genobulans stopped that happening. And as a result, they've now got a society that essentially worships deities that live inside technology that brings them rain. The big tower that brings rain, it's where their gods live. It's where they go to communion. It's also where they sacrifice people. And no point does anyone point out that the Genobulans essentially changed the society and formed the society that exists now. I hope that we get some return to this idea when they're going to have to deal with the fallout of violating the Prime Directive. And I hope that someone makes the argument that the directive has already been violated. Essentially, a post-warp society has visited this planet and changed it. Moreover, it appears they changed it about 800 years ago, which means that the Genobulans were part of the Federation at the time. So the Federation has already had contact with the society and has already changed the society. None of that came up in the episode, and I really think it should have, because it's important for justifying why it was okay to violate the Prime Directive on this occasion to save people, and why it was okay to then talk to the society and the priests of that society to say, look, this is the situation. Us being here doesn't mean your gods don't exist. We can't say that. We're just saying that we're around as well. I liked that. Trying to minimize the effects, but also explaining what the situation is. I really enjoyed this episode. It was good, but I think we do need to see more of the argument of why was it okay to violate the Prime Directive back then, but not now? And aspects of that. I want to see some extras of this, and I hope that, given that they've got 4 of the 5 parts to this progenitor technology, that there's going to still be time, because there's 4 episodes left, and they only need to find one more thing, and then find the technology. It blends in quite nicely, though. I loved the bit where they said, right, the fact is, this water that was left behind as the clue kind of suggests that with the power of technology, you have to be very careful with it. That's exactly what I want to talk about with this episode. So I hope we get to see more, and they start to intertwine the story a bit more, and we get a bigger look at the morality of interfering, which is something I've wanted to see for so long, since that episode in Enterprise where Archer is talking about the effects of meddling with a society that is dying out, and this other society on the same planet is going to come up and take its place. And he's saying, right now we don't have the instructions, but someone's going to have to craft this directive so that future captains don't end up in this situation. We have not had a proper discussion of the Prime Directive since then, and I'd love to see it. I'd love to see it in Discovery. I'd love that thing with the characters they've got in this show are perfect to discuss that, because they've got people from the past and the present from the 32nd century's point of view. In their different viewpoints, I want to see them come together and discuss the effects of the Prime Directive, because as it stands, we're getting brief ideas of it and not enough. But I think that shows just the level that I got pulled into this story. It's a great story. I love the society that they've got here. What I didn't really like is the bit where it felt like it was going into Star Wars. You know, Maz Kanata from... I think it's the second of the sequel trilogy. What's it called? The Last Jedi. It felt like when you're going to her weird cantina palace fortress thing, and you see all the flags and the camera zooms in and pans around, the bit where they're going toward the tower for the run, the race to the top to get into the temple, I really genuinely think that's what they were trying to ape, because it felt like Star Wars. That one little sequence wasn't with the soundtrack and the panning camera. It felt so much like Star Wars. It was weird. But one bit I didn't pick up on the first watch that I probably should have is the older woman who was saying that she'd wished she could, that her friend had won the race, and that she wished she could have seen them both grow up. I didn't get what she was saying at first. I thought that something had happened to that character after she'd won the race, and at some point they died, and she was missing her friend. But what it actually is a really subtle indicator of what happens at the end when the winner doesn't leave the temple. So that was a nice thing. It's like it's putting the seeds there, and then you don't get the other shoe to drop until later on. It was like, that was so well crafted. I really like this episode. So aside from the fact that we don't get the level of discussion about Prime Directive and ethics of that I'd like, the rest of it was incredibly solid. So I'm going to give this a solid 9.7 out of 10. It's a great episode. Discovery this season has been amazing, and I really wish it was continuing. This is what happens when Star Trek hits its prime. It gets really good. Once it knows what the characters are and what it wants from them, Star Trek gets brilliant. And I'm so sorry that it's not going to get the chance to develop from here. So yeah, warp factor 9.7, Mr. Sulu. But you guys, what did you think? Do you think I've been too generous or too harsh on my scoring? I'd love to hear your opinions in the comment section down below. But until next time, I've been Zoe Kirk Robinson. You've been watching TrekHammer. Live long and prosper. I'll see you later. If you like the show, please consider supporting me on Patreon. It really does help create future videos. That's patreon.com/Zoe Kirk Robinson. And I've got an extra special thanks going out to Chief89, Sam Yates, Retro Mickey 82, Mo Henry, and George Botterini. Thank you so much, guys.